All right, welcome back, guys, to our second episode. And today we've got Oli Slade on with us, who I think many people may know as the team manager of Fiercely Forward, a team that kind of came out of nowhere, I guess, as we were just saying, coming up on a couple years ago, January 2020. Mm-hmm. And, climbing through the ranks quickly, you guys have put your mark on the scene. You've had a bunch of really talented drivers come through that you've kind of brought up from the beginning and who are in Formula 4, Formula 3, I think now, F3, and which is pretty cool. And yeah, so we'll get into the sim stuff in a bit, and kind of similar to what we did with Manuel in the first episode. We'll introduce you, Oli, and who you are, where you're from, and how you got into sim racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I live in the north of England, and yeah, so I grew up in a small village in really rural England, so no towns around, no cities around, nothing like that. And yeah, I guess from a really early age, I liked Formula One, and that was where this all started. Like most kids, all started from Formula One and the sim racing, everything, that all started from there. But yeah, grew up in the countryside, would go to Alton Park, which is a race circuit maybe 2 or 3 hours away. It wasn't the closest one actually, but it was one that we kind of enjoyed going to. And then, yeah, grew up there and then moved to a city, a nearby city for work really. Got a job in software and moved up here and have lived here ever since.
Nice. And so with Fiercely Forward, after you'd started your kind of adventures into sim racing.
Yeah.
And so you kind of it sounds like you gathered with a few other friends, and then it kind of slowly turned into the beginnings of Fiercely Forward. So how did you guys get to that, and I guess the progression to where you are now?
Well, yeah, we kind of started with I kind of started sim racing in say spring of 2019. And really, I kind of joined it because of seeing other people. I saw it was getting popular. Basically, I liked racing. It's something I've always liked. I've always gone to touring cars and Formula One races when I can. So something that what my original thought was to get kind of closer to how it felt to be in competition, because I'd heard from people that kind of the endurance side was something that really kind of spoke to me, because it was kind of the team camaraderie, and that's something that I've always liked in anything really, is having that kind of team feeling and being there for each other and working together for a common goal. That's something that I've always enjoyed from whenever I can remember, really. So it started out with I knew somebody who I worked with who had been on iRacing a bit. And they'd done it from a while ago, but it was really casual. They just do a couple of races every month or so. And I kind of mentioned it to them, and because I knew that they'd liked it. And we talked about Formula One and things like that. So I kind of said to them, hey, I'm looking at getting into this. What sort of stuff do I need, and what's it like, and this sort of thing. So anyway, I got started with some pretty basic gear, and got set up, and we raced together, me and him. But he was way better than me at the start, definitely, because I hadn't done this ever. So yeah, the amazing thing that struck me about sim racing straight away is how much you learn about the sport, even though it's not real. It's the competition and the setup of the cars, the concentration, the discipline. It's all extremely real, and I think it gives you such an insight into what real racing drivers are doing. And I think that's something that struck me straight away. But yeah, in terms of Fiercely Forward, what happened was basically me and this friend created a hobby team, and a couple of other guys that we'd raced with kind of joined, and we kind of just were messing around, really. We do a couple of special events, nothing serious. And then they kind of they did other things. One of them left for work, and then the other one had another child, so they had to kind of leave sim racing for a while. And in that time, I did rallycross, actually. That was something that I hadn't really tried, but it was something that I've always liked as well, because but more from watching it. I never really knew anything about it. Yeah. But I really loved
completely.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did I don't know, a couple of seasons of that, maybe until because there came a point where they started like the pro guys came back because they were going to start practicing for the pre-Q and stuff like this, and then I kind of went like, okay, they're a different level. Like, they were just destroying lap times that I couldn't believe. But met loads of great people. Like the rallycross community at iRacing is really tight, and they're really helpful. They're really tight. So they were really helpful. So I met some great people there, and that kind of springboarded Fiercely Forward, to be totally honest, because I didn't really have a team. I spoke to the people that I was kind of teaming with, and they'd left, and just kind of said like, look, I'm racing every day, but you guys aren't available, so I'm thinking about doing something else. And what I actually did was I joined a team. I wasn't really joined them, but I kind of just was hanging around with them, who were called DGRX with their names. Okay. And it's a team that Dane Baird was involved with for a while. Yeah, so we were just kind of like, there's some great guys there. So the guy called Jason Hoek and another guy's called Tim Broclaw, and I think that's his name. I might have butchered that, I'm not sure. But we just kind of talk about paints and stuff, and just talk about sim racing really. And then from there, I just kind of got an idea, and it started with the name. Actually, it started with the name Fiercely Forward, and everything else built around that. So
how did you come up with the name? I remember asking this because when you guys first started, I remember I think we were pretty much putting IVRA together at the time, and so I think you guys shot me a message or something on Instagram, and like I remember seeing the name and the logo. I was like, this is sick. Like this is such a good livery. Like the logo's amazing. Who the hell are you guys?
That's the thing is from a young age, I've always been really like obsessed with branding. I don't know why. I'm not into branding. I'm not into anything like that. I just like it, and I don't know why I like it, but like iconography, branding, logos, just that whole thing. I really like. I really like that stuff.
Nice.
And basically, what happened was, I was at work one day and I was thinking about something, and I don't know what it was, but someone was talking about like, I think it was when like the phrase "fierce" was really popular, and like, I don't know why, but I was like, daydreaming at work about something, and like basically the idea of something being like in software where we work, you iteratively develop things, and you're always like progressing things forward. Right. So, I don't know why, but something in me kind of thought about like it moving fiercely forward. Like it's always progressing forward, moving forwards.
Yeah.
And it just stuck with me. I don't know why. And then, I had this image of like originally it was a chrome lion on the side of a yellow car, and that was it. That was where it started. So me and Tim on DGRX made this like car that had it was a Mercedes AMG, and it had a yellow front, a black back, and then a chrome line in the middle, and that was it. And then from there I joined a league, and I met a guy called Louis Hanker, and me and him together started entering events, and that's kind of as it started really.
That's very cool. The importance sometimes of and of course I'm going to forget it now. I have my undergrad in neuroscience, and I should remember this, but there's a neural network that kind of like will start to light up as you kind of like I guess you could say actively procrastinate. So you just kind of like let your mind wander. And as you're doing other things, like it's still processing a bit, and like there you go, you have your logo, right?
That was exactly as it was. It was it was weird. It was just like I don't know why, but I just kind of think of these things every now and again, and having that line on the car with the name Fiercely Forward, and that was how it started. And it really was just that. And the guys from that team were really helpful. Like Josh Clogg, one of the guys who joined Fiercely Forward like straight away from the get-go. He was there just kind of chilling, doing rallycross and stuff, and he still does, which is great. So, and I got a message from Jason, who kind of manages things over there, and he just kind of said like, Josh really likes doing road stuff as well. I know you're thinking about doing road stuff with Fiercely Forward. Would you have a chat with him, basically? And then we did, and from there he was super into like F3 and things like that. And I knew some other people that were racing in F3, and it just kind of came together really. And then we started basically just doing events.
That's awesome. And so speaking of F3, you guys had a couple of drivers on a
Yeah.
team, not necessarily just in F30, but they were driving some of the endurance stuff in IVRA.
Yeah.
You guys started in the summer series and then came back for a couple of seasons. Jack Crawford, who's a Red Bull junior driver,
Right, yeah.
I think he's in F3 now, right? He started in F4 in the States.
Yeah.
And Oli Behrman, who's just killing it in F4 in the UK, right?
He's winning everything. Like every time I tune into a race, he's either winning it or he's winning it. He's winning everything. It's unbelievable.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's kind of a crazy story because that's never something that I imagined. Like when you start doing this, like you think about like, oh, Max Verstappen races on it sometimes, Lando Norris is streaming on it, so on. You never really, you kind of, you know about it, but you don't really think about it that much. But basically what happened is we were all doing kind of different events, and it got to the point where the team was, getting to a decent size. So there's a few different parts to this, which is kind of interesting. So the first part is we got a few people in the team, and we were entering events like F3 and so on. And I messaged you, like you said, I messaged you on Instagram because I saw basically my thoughts were, right, we're getting some really good guys together. Like, how are we gonna, like, what's the next step for us? And we looked at all the kind of main series. We looked at like SEO, Neo, you guys, and one of the guys that we had joined the team recently, Taylor, had said that he really loved the previous iteration of IVRA, and he said it was like, he really enjoyed it, and they like super realistic rules and everything, all this sort of thing. And it sounded perfect because, we all like endurance, and that was where we wanted it to go. So I just pinged you a message, and and then the summer series obviously was kind of coming up. And that was just something we really wanted to do. So yeah, that was great, to be honest. And I think that was like really good timing because from the start we knew we'd want to, like, our idea was, okay, we do some special events, we do some of the smaller leagues, and kind of just like a progression system, we just keep moving up the leagues. That was our thoughts. And then when it came to IVRA, like, it was kind of everything we wanted anyway from the competition, and it was, how close it is, and how competitive everyone is, and let's say passionate as well, And I think just that's everything we kind of wanted. But in terms of like Jack and Ollie, so the first place it kind of started was when I was starting up, I'd message people on iRacing, like cold call them basically. I'd see their stats, and I'd see that they were like up to the top of their league or in the series that they've been racing in, and I just shoot them a message. I'd say like, hey, we're a new team, we can get set up subscriptions, we'll pay for entries, this sort of thing, like just trying to entice them a bit. Obviously we do that, but like that, just trying to give them a bit of a sales pitch about Fiercely Forward. And a guy called Matthew Crisp joined, and he'd been racing in just like some, I think it was just like F3 lobbies or something, and he'd met with with Jack Crawford and Johnny Edgar, who were the two brand new Red Bull F4 drivers. They just got a deal with Van Amersfoort Racing in the Netherlands to do F4 in Italian F4 and German F4, which is apparently like the main series, so they do both. Okay. And he just got chatting with Jack basically, and he just kind of pinged to me one day and just said, hey, I've been chatting with this guy who's an F4 driver. Like, he seems really cool. Shall I ask him if he wants to join? And I was like, yes, yes, do it. So he just pinged him, and Jack wanted to. So he joined, and he was great. He was great. So every Formula One race, or every F3 race, or every F4 race, we'd be chatting with him about like, and he was meeting with Helmut Marko, and he was meeting with all these cool people. So we were getting some really, like, as complete nerds of the sport, like, we got such like so cool insights. Like, for example, I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but like when he was doing F4, he kind of asked Marco, like, which one do we prioritize, Italian or German? And he just replied both. So yeah, like he said something like win both or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like just having these cool like anecdotes was amazing. And then Jack obviously joined F3 and got a bit busier, and he actually joined another team that were in kind of the top split special events. Although he's never kind of materialized from what I've gathered. It's never that kind of like top split event that he was wanting has never materialized. but I'm not sure what he's doing with sim racing now. I think he's just super busy with F3 basically.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah, and then with Oli, it's a similar story. He was racing with Alex Tanner, and you know how chatty Alex Tanner can be, and like I think they just got chatting, and basically he just kind of said the same thing. He said like, I've been chatting with Oli, maybe he can join, and exactly the same thing happened. We had a chat, me and Oli, and he was available for an IVRA endurance event at Mid Ohio. So we were like, okay, let's just get him in, see what he can do. He was coming back from a test or something in F4 because he was with Ralph Schumacher's team before his current team. So he was doing a final test with them or a test with a new team. And then he came back like that week and then just started like blitzing Mid Ohio. And the times he was putting in was like, are you serious? Like, but ultimately that race, like, IVRA's quite overwhelming because there's a lot of cars and they're all like super, like you're passing traffic a lot. And then on Mid Ohio, which is a compressed thin track, I think that was maybe like, a step too far, but he did a great job. So what can you
That's
say?
awesome. Yeah, I remember even guys that are like up in the 6-7K range, and that I think like most people would recognize as being like in the top tier, had made mention of just how mentally exhausting Mid Ohio was last season, because it's true, it's so narrow and generally everything. And this is something that I love too. And when I was still racing, was there's so much that you have to constantly be aware of, and like, in like microseconds be filtering, like, do I need to be worried about this? Like, where is this person relative to where I am? Like, and then back to what you're focusing on, and that's just complete overdrive in Mid Ohio.
Yeah, it's amazing, really, because you've got like, it's like a box that you're confined to as well. So like other drivers look around and so forth, and they've got like the feeling of the car where it is on the track, but it's kind of like you're sensory deprecated, aren't you? Because you can't really see everything. But I remember being like, I was spotting the LMP car for that race, and like coming through traffic on a restart was just mental, because it's like you've got GTE cars making moves on other GTE cars, and then we're trying to overtake them as well. But it's just like, it was just sensory overload. I think it was amazing 100%. As well, because that's what it's about. It's great.
Yeah. And I remember, some of the guys that you mentioned, like Taylor, when he was racing, I remember racing against him in DGFX. As he's into this stuff now, and sometimes you'll still see these guys on track, which is always great. What about yourself? Do you get to drive much anymore? Or do you find that most of your time's going towards the management of the team and stuff like that?
Yeah. So with me, I kind of like to the back end of last year, I feel like I kind of let, like, when you kind of feel like you reach a limit a bit. And for me, I was finding that the enjoyment I was getting was from working with the team and working with people to like basically make sure that they're doing like, or being the best that they can be in the IVRA championship basically. And it got to the point where I spent a couple of seasons where I just like really, really tried hard. And I get the grind that people put in. Like, it must be incredible to like keep grinding for ages and then get to that level where you want to be. But I just didn't feel like I was getting that like reward from it that other people do
which
get.
Which is a huge part of it too. Like, you have to still have that drive and that passion for it, right?
Yeah, like all last season we worked with like Quentin, who's he just got his pro license now, and the kind of like the way that he thinks about things and the way that he like when he's dedicating himself to something, like he really puts in the effort. Like we spoke to him the other day, and he's putting in like hours and hours and hours and hours to each round of that championship that he was in, the PESC one. And that kind of commitment, obviously they're on another level when it comes to commitment, because it's like obviously sim racing's above anything, and he kind of said he gets the enjoyment from the grind and the competition of it. Like it's from grinding it out and then getting the result, which I can totally empathize with, but I just wasn't feeling that same thing. For me, the joy that I was getting was when we put in a great race and everyone on the team was super hyped about it. So
Yeah.
Like I think it was Spa, which was that the first race of last season. I can't remember, maybe first or second.
Yep.
Yeah, the LMP AM team. We got ourselves like we tried really hard for that event basically, and Jack was involved in that. Jack was racing in that, and he got into a problem in the middle of the race where he kind of had some contact with other cars. We got a penalty for it, and then as IVRA is, it came down to like the last hour, and it was me and Taylor, and it was like 3 a.m. in the UK or something, and basically a safety car came out because the Corvette was like flipping through the gravel and then smashed into a car, smashed into a fence or something.
Yeah.
And you called the yellow, and we were like, we were ready for it basically. So we had a strategy for that race, which is something that we do often. So don't copy it, everyone. So what we do often is if we can fill a tank till the end of the race, we'll just do it. And that's exactly what we did. So there was something like 45 minutes left of the race. We boxed the LMP car, took a full tank, and then just stayed out. And then, because we knew that other people needed to pit, and obviously with IVRA taking safety cars, if a safety car comes out, we'll end up at the front of the queue. So that was the plan, and that's exactly what happened. And, we were this AM team, and we were in, I think, P2, with 20 minutes to go, and I'm there, like, shaking, palms sweaty, Ian's, like, silent because he's trying so hard, and then, like, we pulled off the AM victory and then got like P2 overall, and like that is what I enjoyed. It wasn't the racing for me. It wasn't like I wouldn't want to be in Taylor's shoes, so I think I'd just make a mess of that basically. He did a great job. Like he took all that pressure and got the win for the class. But I don't think I could do that. And I don't actually think that I would enjoy that. So but for me, I enjoyed putting it all together, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, kind of in the background, figuring out, like, and this is the interesting thing, I think, is you hear comments from a lot of other teams. Sometimes it's, well, this AM car is up here, you know what I mean? And is that are they incorrectly classified, or is that a strategy thing? And, there's just a lot that goes on to it. And I think like a big part of that is that everybody kind of like approaches it differently, slightly, or greatly, right?
Yeah.
And that, like, I think the biggest difference in, the races that exactly like you're talking about is, how quick are you to adapt to what's going on around you versus like, here's my plan and we have to stick to our plan.
That's it.
And then, are you tracking what your competitor is doing throughout the race, and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's definitely interesting, as I'm sure we're going to run into that with a lot of other guys as they come on here. How they approach the races, right? So you guys, and even listening to Bo was on the VCO podcast last night, and it was interesting listening to that because I think they kind of, that's their approach, is you kind of have a general outline, a general structure of here's what we need to accomplish roughly, here's a schedule of when people will be going in, but like that's completely dynamic and you've got to adjust as you go. And is that how you guys kind of approach it? And how closely are you following your competitors on track? Like, are you going into it aware of who you're battling with in the championship and where they are on their pit stops and stint lengths, or is it kind of just you're doing your own thing and let the chips kind of fall where they may?
Well, it kind of depends really. So for the first IVRA event, taking it a step back, like we know that we're not like last season when we went into it, we knew we weren't like title contenders in pro, like top tier team. Like we're aware that we're not like the levels that some people where they're getting paid and so forth and all this sort of thing. But we knew that we had resources. So we had things available, like we had the time, money, funding available to go in and put a good championship kind of like together. So going into it, we actually like had an LMP coach because it was a new car, and there was a guy that we managed to get on board who coached the team, made the setups, had one-on-one sessions with them, Q&As. So there was a lot of prep that went in from our side. We were being quite regimented from it. So we'd have like when the briefing was kind of released, we'd divide our team up into chat groups, and we go through the briefing and we kind of like see where it was at, and see what the changes were at, see what the kind of like fueling and the things like that were, and the tire sets, and basically then we just all jump into a session with the coach and we just blast out laps. And he did a great job. So he obviously worked for a setup shop. He got us the setups that we needed. He tweaked them for us and with us. He'd explain why he's changing things and why things felt differently when we changed them. Because obviously you've got like 3 or 4 people within a team, they're feeling different things in the car and they're used to different driving styles. So having that kind of like conduit to have that discussion where he really knew the car. Well, he was obviously getting used to the car as well, but he knew why there was differences in what we were feeling,
right,
or what they were feeling in the car. So having that was great. So yeah, in terms of approach, although we weren't like a top team in terms of like iRating or like prestige or organization, so to speak, we were deadly serious about how we approached the race. Every race we went into, for the most part, we felt like we had a plan of the stints, but like you say, it has to be dynamic. So we learned that pretty early on. So for Spa, we were going to try and be quite rigid, and then like 3 safety cars in the first hour kind of blew that whole thing out the water. So we kind of learned very quickly that in IVRA competition where there is safety cars, we can't do it the way that the coach had been doing it. He was top split LMP2 events, and in them events they're just trying to like eke the tires out as far as they can and eke the fuel out as far as they can whilst being like extremely aggressive with the car. But in IVRA we couldn't do that. So we knew from that point onwards that we had to be more dynamic with how we were dealing with the competition. So like you say, we basically changed it from like a rigid plan to like, okay, Taylor's going to start, then Jack, then Silas, and then Taylor's going to finish, or something like that. And then we'd make sure the drive time was met. But other than that, everything was fluid. So safety car comes out, right, Taylor, how do the tires feel like? Should we change them? Should we not? Okay, where's the fuel at? How much fuel do we need to get to the end of the race? Can we divide that up properly into the stints left? Will there be another safety car? All this stuff's kind of going on whilst we're kind of trundling around to the pit lane getting open. So it has to be very dynamic, or you'll end up in situations where if you're just thrashing the tires out to the very end, or you're thrashing the fuel tank up to the last second, it's not optimal. And you need I think you need somebody, either another driver or a dedicated kind of spotter, strategist, working this stuff out. And then obviously when people pit and they come back out, there's an undercut kind of going on. So you need to see what lap times they're putting in and then see if we can match them or what we can do, maybe short fuel or something to try and get out in front of them or maintain our position, basically. So there's a lot going on in an IVRA race, a lot.
Yeah, it's so much. And, I think especially in the last couple of years, we've seen more and more just people becoming aware of that, you need to kind of figure out how things are going and react to it and, adjust your game plan coming into it. And, now we have these guys that are just engineers on the pit wall, so to speak. And that's kind of their function in the team. You guys have Andrew for that, who is probably, within IVRA at least, one of the more well-known people that's kind of his role in the team, right? And so how did that come to be with him kind of being your guys' kind of like chief engineer for race days?
Yeah, so I mean, Andrew's an absolute like legend in the team because he just, he's got everything that we need for a race weekend and during a race, he gives it, and he's got great camaraderie with the team that he's working with. They're a close, like knit group of people. So last season, GT Am, that group was really tight knit, and they, well, I mean, I think the reason that they won the championship was that they were such a tight knit group, and they were good friends, had great morale, and that Andrew was like leading that from a strategy perspective. I think that's all the difference, and the way that he conducts things is, everything. So in the team, the whole point of why we're doing this is for fun, because we're not like someone who can kind of give salaries and give like the things that top teams can give. So the reason we're doing this is hobby and fun. So, the way that the team morale gets set up in Andrew's teams especially is it's a very enthusiastic and positive, team really. And Andrew says that positivity is worth 2/10, and I really believe that is true because, if you're in these situations and you're getting your head down, and you think like, oh, this is terrible, and oh, I just got a penalty for this, and get angry about it. That just puts your whole race off, and you see people who get in that mindset where it's just kind of spiraling. So, in the summer series, we had a problem like that where one of our drivers wasn't understanding the 3-second rule in the pit lane, and it just spirals because we weren't communicating correctly how he should be pitting, and it just wasn't happening. It wasn't working very well. And you can just see how it happens. Like, it happens once, they get angry. It happens again, like they're frustrated. They're not understanding what's going on, and it just the whole team feels that. So when you've got someone in Andrew's position on that GTM car, where he's absorbing all of that and internalizing it and making it positive, like, I just think that whole team dynamic was really good. And they're in the LMP AM car now, the LMP Pro car this season, and they're not LMP drivers. You've got Luke, who's a rallycross driver, and Josh, who does open wheel and rallycross and did GT last year, moving into the LMP car, and they got they got a P6 in their first first event, where they'll be the first to admit they're not LMP drivers, and the people in that field are extremely strong LMP drivers.
They are,
and I really think that that mentality part of it is so important. So. And I think that's something that we kind of have a key theme within the team. When I talk to people one-on-one in the team, like when we direct message and things, the discussion is about that kind of like mentality, because I don't think it really comes across very well for people who don't sim race how mentally challenging this is, because you're fully focused on going full speed, and the maximum coming out of yourself still has to happen whether it's real or virtual, because you're ringing that wheel round within inches, and you have to nail every corner, every apex, whilst dealing with everything around you, and then being able to keep a cool head in battles, or when a strategy call is happening, or when something doesn't go your way. Like, I really think that's like such an important element, is making sure that your head's right. And I think when we are kind of doing like anything strategy wise, or Andrew's doing anything strategy-wise, you can tell positivity and making sure everyone knows they can depend on the engineer spotter kind of situation is super important, like paramount. So
I think that's a really important point, and it's a very good point, because it's something that I think teams who would kind of be in the same boat that you're in with, maybe you're not the fastest in a class, and certainly that was, Casper and I, we were definitely not the fastest people on the grid, but we ended up winning the championship. And part of that was it. If you have somebody that's on the pit wall, so to speak, that's kind of absorbing things as they go, or you're able to do it yourself as a driver, or just between you and your other co-pilot. And very quickly assess what's happened, and then, okay, now what do we do, instead of actually getting angry about it. That can be an extremely big difference between you still functioning at like the capacity that that you can do, whether that's optimal or not, right? And then a little chink in the armor getting in, where there's like self-doubt, or whatever it might be, and then just like you said, it slowly starts to spiral. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like a quote unquote toxic positivity, where it's like everything's positive, but like there is something to be said for somebody that's able to rationally look at something and say, like, yes, like this sucks, but like like, here's what we do now, and like this is what we're going to do, so that like we can keep competing and we can still get to the end of the race, and like what do we have to do to get into the position we want to be in now? You know what I mean?
I think as well, like in a team, like something that I think is really important is the correct culture, and obviously that moves with people that are in the team. So when you have a group of people that are working for a common goal, like getting that like understanding and culture together is super important. And there was a guy that used to be on the team called Kevin, and me and him we used to get on really well, and we chat a lot about how kind of sim racing is a release for people. So, if you have other things going on in your life, sim racing something you can go into and just it's not there anymore. You're focused on the race, the lap, the corner, whatever it might be. But when you do that as a group, I think that's something that's really special. So when you all have things going on, but you make time to really put effort into this race this weekend, and we're gonna like do it as a team. And if we crash out or we get penalties or we come last, it doesn't matter. That's not really the point of it. The point of it is that 4 or 5 people got together, worked on a common objective, and the outcome is secondary, really. And I think that's honestly how we got some of our best results, is because we weren't thinking we're going to go out and win this. We were just thinking we're going to go and have time with away from life and focused on this goal, really.
Mm-hmm. That's great, man. It's amazing. And I think it's definitely something that any team at any level can take away as like something to learn from or something to incorporate into their own team, and with mentioning Kevin that was on the team before, like, how have you guys been internally? Like, have you had a big ebb and flow? Is it mostly the same people that have been there the whole time? Like, and where do you guys see yourself kind of like building to? Like, are you mostly focused on like IVRA and then other kind of like, SEO Neo type stuff, or what do you guys see for yourselves in the future?
Yeah, so we have a core group of people that have been there from the beginning, and I think that's kind of important because they're kind of like stewards of who we are, if you know what I mean. But yeah, last season, at the end of last season, a core group of people left to join or create their own organization, which that was what they wanted to do, and that's totally fine. But that did create like this it's a turning point of an organization. If we had something like 15 people, and I think like 5 of them left, so that's quite a big gap to be filled, and it's felt. So there was definitely some changes, and I think that transition period was particularly like I'd say rocky, to be quite honest, because you've got a group of people leaving the team who are then going to become competitors to you directly, and they were leaving to join another organization, so that dynamic was going on, and I think we haven't had much of a turnover, but I think there came a point where we had to define ourselves as something new, in a way, because a lot of those people were kind of like I'd say the most vocal in the team and most kind of like conversation starters, if you like, and when they left, there was definitely a transition in the team. Where it just became basically a different way of us hanging out, basically, which is fine, and it's transitioned really well. In terms of the organizations, and so in terms of the kind of like the championships we wanted to go in, we always wanted to shoot for the moon type thing. So we didn't think it was kind of essentially possible for world championship level kind of like status, but we've always kind of thought we can be with the top private leagues, and that's kind of where we're still wanting to be. And the great thing about having like of being the team fiercely forward is, a lot of the people that have joined recently have contacted us wanting to join, and that's such like a privilege, really, because going from a year ago, 18 months ago, like having to quite actively recruit and vouch for yourself, to know that like people know us from the team that had like Jack in it, or has Oli in it, or won IVRA, or is in SCO, or whatever it might be. We even were in like top split TCR. We came 5th in Nürburgring in 24 hours. So having these kind of like reference points for people, as well as a strong social media presence, brings in some talent that you don't really expect to have, and it's great. And I'd say that's one part of it, and the second part of it is having a great core group of people who know other people who are, you know, culturally right and fast, basically. So we've managed to basically create a group of people now who are running the IVRA championships, who are super strong, super focused, correct mindset, really passionate about what they're doing, and I just think that's really important when you're in that transitioning period. That we managed to kind of like, okay, some people have left, we're regrouping, and I'm really proud of everyone because we've done a great job, and now we're in, you know, the two IVRA championships with strong entries in all of the classes, and we've got Neo pre-qualifiers coming up, and we just done an SCO championship as well. So everyone's doing a great job.
That's awesome. And stuff, other things that are coming up. So we've got you in endurance.
Yes.
We've got club sport starting up this weekend too, which you guys did well in last year. How are you guys feeling for that?
Yeah, we're excited for that.
Yeah.
So when we kind of won the Porsche Cup Championship last year, and Quentin was such a huge part of that journey. Quentin and Hugo working together were incredible. Like what I would say is Hugo's like someone who will make sure that it's organized, and I think that's something that Quentin needed because obviously like he's got other things going on with other organizations where he was working really hard on other things, and you know, huge shout out to them for letting him race with us. And when he had the time to come over and practice with us, Hugo had everything ready so that, you know, the setup was good to go. Here's what the track's like. Here's the starting state. Let's just jump in a session and like just thrash out some laps when we can.
Nice.
And you know, I think that like Quentin is a ridiculous talent. I was saying this last year. Like he is going to be. Well, I predicted he would be in the world champs, and he's done that. And I definitely am predicting that he's going to be in the top of that at some point in his career because he drives that Porsche Cup in ways that, like, you know, it's unbelievable. Like he drives it with the rear of the car. Like, yeah, it's just crazy. But anyway, having him in that team and Hugo there as well, and then I looked at more of the upper level of that. So I'd be looking at more of like during the race, what's going on? When do we need to stop to get into the position where we want to be in? Like, but the problem is although everything was kind of in place, IVRA's like one of them things that human error is extremely common and the difference when it comes to the championship. So, for example, we were in Kota and we were out front comfortably in Kota, and I made the mistake of saying that Quentin needed to stretch the fuel out to the end, and that essentially lost us. And I remember being in the rig telling Quentin just to keep lifting, and the competitors are coming past us. Our junior's going, there's a problem with Quentin's car, when actually he was lifting so hard that he saved like 5 extra laps of fuel. And after the race, Quentin just said, don't do that again. And that was it, you know? So I think that's like the thing that I enjoyed most about that is the dynamicness of the championship. And that's something I love about club sport because of the classes. Like in the endurance one, it's very kind of like typical endurance classes like GTE, GT3, and LMP. But in the club sport, you've got something that's a little bit different, and you don't really get that anywhere else on iRacing, really. I mean, Neo's kind of similar, but you've got that GT3 class. But having the Porsche Cup as the top class, I think, makes things like incredibly different because, you know, I don't really know how to explain it. It's like the perfect number of cars on track and the perfect classes, and all that combined with like the IVRA rule set and the level of competition was just a perfect storm for last season for what happened, basically.
Yeah, and last season was, I mean, it really did come down to the wire in pretty much every class.
Yeah.
I think except for maybe TCR. But even then, it was like the winner was out front. But after that, it was kind of like everything was up in the air. And
that's right.
I think that's just the nature of the competition and, like you said, the tracks, the rule set, and the cars. And now this season, we've got, you know, the addition of one extra GT4, which should be great.
Yeah.
And the 992, which is sick. Super.
Yeah, we're loving that car. We're loving that car. It's so good.
Oh, it's great. It feels amazing. It's it like the little nuances of the last one where like it suddenly wanted to kill you for no reason are
Yeah.
kind of gone. And it feels pretty planted everywhere, which is great. Have you guys got much time in with that? And who do you have this year back for this weekend?
Yeah, so Hugo's back, which is great to have. We've had plenty of time with the car. Obviously, the difference with this car is kind of similar to the same situation we had with the LMP last season, where it was brand new, and we had to kind of get used to it super quick. So we're in that same situation. We have Nicholas now, who joined the team over the summer. He's super quick. I used to race with him in GT4s, and he would always kick my ass. So I know how quick he is from first hand. He does real life karting as well, super quick. So he's going to be in the car with us. So that's going to be exciting this weekend. We then have our GT4 team, which is the same one that was in SCO and the same one that was in GT3 that got fifth this last weekend in endurance. So that's Michael Janney and Maxime Marriott. They're going to be in the GT4 car, and they're both super quick in that. So I'll be excited to see what they can do. And then in the TCR car, we've got a little bit of a different lineup because we've got Neo going on at the same time. So we've got Damien in the TCR for this opening event because he is doing Neo as well, but he really wanted to do this event as well because he loves racing. So he's going in that, and then we've got Alex Tanner as well, who's been traveling a lot during the summer actually. But I know from all the work that he put in, like the work that Alex put in the season before he left for traveling, it was like, he went from, I can't remember what, like some crazy I rating like 2K to 6K or something in like two seasons. Or something. Yeah, like he was putting in crazy amount of work, and he's got pace, and he's got everything that he needs to do well in the championship. So I'm really looking forward to how they're all going to perform this weekend. So it's going to be exciting.
Awesome.
I think.
That's great. Do you guys have I guess any other kind of conflicts coming up throughout the season between like Neo and everything else? And how are you guys doing in those other series? I mean, aside from the ones you just mentioned from last weekend.
Yeah, so we know that we're going to have some schedule conflict with Neo and Club Sport. So we've planned for that already. So we have quite a deep TCR squad, which is great. We've got like Damien, Isaac, Baptiste, Alex, and Jess. They're all really good TCR drivers. So we know we've got that depth if we need it. So that's something that's I think is going to come out well later on in the season. In terms of the rest, we haven't particularly planned too much because the core group of people that we're working with are kind of maxed out. So, for example, we've got like we were kind of considering GT4, but we've got like Gianni and Maxime are both doing GT3 in endurance and GT4 in club sport. So any more that's starting to push, and we don't want to burn out. That's not what we don't want to. I'd never want people to feel like it's a chore to be doing a race. And I think it can feel like that sometimes if it's like a burden when it comes to the amount of races that you're doing. Some people love that and they want to do as many races and championships as possible. Other people, I think they do really well when they've got like either one championship to like full focus on, or that they've got like two similar ones. And I think the rule set between club sport and endurance are close enough that can kind of transition quite well. So
yeah, 100%. That's great, man. It sounds like you guys pretty much have it dialed in for the whole year now.
Well, I hope so, but like it's always one of them things where things evolve all the time with this. Like I'm having to take a bit of a step back recently because I've kind of like got house move stuff going on and other things happening in life where I'm having to kind of divert my attention to that. And Andrew's like quite stretched as well. So we've got this situation where like I guess the strategy side of it or the race engineering side is less available than it was last season. So, but the guys have stepped up immediately to that challenge though, which is super impressive. So they, last weekend there was no strategy on the pit wall at all, and they still performed exactly as they would with us there. That's kind of the amount of effort we kind of put in. I think we had a session where we went through all the rules for the new people, and we kind of dialed in what to look out for, like safety car periods, the 5-second pit lane, just things that can trip people up that you wouldn't know from like a normal event in iRacing. And then that's all that we did. And Gianni and Maxime worked on their own and they did a great job. And then Luke and Josh have obviously did last season, so I had a bit of context, but new car, new kind of like feeling for them being the lappers rather than being lapped. And they did a great job. So, I mean, I'm not worried in the slightest that kind of me and Andrew having to step back a little bit temporarily. I don't think that's going to affect our title challenge, but we'll definitely be back further later in the season. And I think that's, we're basically working as hard, but in different areas in a way.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And I don't know if it's just I've heard it occasionally, recently type thing, or if it's happening more often. But it does seem like people are getting much busier and they don't have the kind of time that they did. Maybe it's just everything's kind of slowly opening back up and people are getting back to quote unquote normal. But it'll be interesting to see how that may potentially affect teams in the coming season.
I mean, luckily for us, it's a temporary thing. So we remain like as committed as ever to sim racing. So like we recently signed a deal with IRS, who's a setup service, and they've kind of propelled us forward again by having access to their tools. And although we're having to take a bit of a step back, like you say, because things are opening back up and people have got other commitments that they're having to do, we're still trying to be more efficient with the time we're spending on what we're doing, and that's helped with that. So I think you're absolutely right. Though we're in a situation where the sign up sheets are smaller and they're more concentrated to the great teams, and I think that it's kind of weird. Like during the pandemic, when real racing was postponed, all that real racing kind of came to sim racing, and it was amazing for kind of boosting the esport. But then they've had this kind of tail off in a little bit where they've gone back to real racing and other people have gone back to work or whatever it might be. So we're in this kind of period as a community, I guess, where we're reshaping kind of how we're doing things and who's involved in the races, where the influx of new drivers is slower than the drivers that are already there. So as you imagine, you've got this kind of shift of talent to be the people that are already there rather than new people coming in. Yeah. So it's really interesting. Like this summer we had Marie Hrushka and Rebecca Pauline join the team, and they've been around sim racing for years and been in the top teams and been in lots of different situations. So having their context and their experience about other teams that have worked in with this kind of same before the pandemic, if you like, before the influx of drivers and the kind of changes that happen in the community, having that insight has been extremely helpful. And although they're not really available to race much this season, having them kind of their oversight and advice and kind of like just to kind of guide people in a way where, say they're focusing on something and maybe their focus could be on something else, just having that little kind of like hip check and be like, don't worry about that, focus on this. And like just having that extra kind
that can be invaluable.
Yeah, just that experience to kind of say like, this is what we've seen before, try this, or don't worry about this, that's not important, look at this. So I just think we've evolved as a team in a way that I think is going to be really suitable for where sim racing's going.
That's awesome. And you mentioned IRS coming on with you guys. Yeah. Do you have any other new sponsorships or partnerships for the coming year?
Yeah, so I mean, IRS has been great. That's been a long time coming. So basically, a guy called Alex Torres, who runs it, used to race with us in TCR events, just kind of casually. He'd join in. And he's been building this kind of like super niche, he's been serving this really niche community, like the kind of Spanish-speaking iRacing community doesn't really have anyone to serve it because they're all kind of English-speaking. Right. So he's created this service that's really specific, or it was originally really specific to tailor for this community. And what's essentially happened is out of that, he's then essentially bolted on the English language, and now he's got a fully fleshed out service that can essentially take that core group of Spanish followers that he's already got and then build that out to be able to take the whole sim racing community. So he's recently launched his website. It's really cool, and we're all on it and we're all using it. So, and we really love the setups. They've helped us into like immensely, just sort of having like a baseline to get started with for all the competitions, and having like people working with them to be able to provide like, oh, try this setup or try that, and this sort of thing has been invaluable. And the great thing about it is it's working both ways, because our driver Gianni has just joined them as a coach for GT4s. So I think that partnership is really like taking it to the next level for us. We still retain all of our usual partnerships, so we have our GSI Gomez Sim Racing partnership still with us, and we love their gear. And it's like I feel like their gear is like a step above anyone else. And then we have like Porsche Sport. Porsche Sport helps us, or is present on our Porsche cars. So anytime we're racing a Porsche, which is quite regular, we've got their branding on the car, because for everything Porsche, they seem to be like getting all the best interviews. They've got like Kevin Estra and El Bamba, and
what?
Yeah, they got all
That's
these like
awesome.
all these super cool guests all the time. And Luke's super passionate about sim racing, so it's really nice to see kind of like a traditional racing media outlet like fully embrace sim racing, to the point where he's watching all the streams, he's commenting all the streams about the races that are going on. He's super like Porsche Sport are a great like advocate for sim racing, and we love working with them for that.
That's amazing. Very cool, man. I remember seeing them too last season. Just you mentioned them in the chats. Like, it's true, they are very active in a lot of stuff, which is great.
Yeah, that if a Porsche car is in a sim racing event, they'll be watching it. It's amazing, really. And we've worked with them on loads of different projects, and they're doing write-ups on their website about us, or write-ups about like races we've been involved in, and it's just super cool to bring that like extra dimension to the realism of sim racing in a way. Because obviously with us like competing in these events, to then have like to be able to show drivers or show people that we're working with like here's a write-up of an event that we were in. It's just like, it's really cool to have like the drivers have got their names in the articles, and like the moves that they've pulled off, or being on the podium or winning the event is like in a journalist article. Feels like it's an extra special piece, that's great.
Oh, 100%. That's amazing, man. It sounds like you guys are geared up for another great year, and that you've got great things going on, which is awesome. I think we're kind of approaching the end here of the second podcast, but it's been great so far. I've definitely enjoyed getting some more insight into yourself and Fiercely Forward.
Thanks for
any other kind of final thoughts? You're gonna be watching the Schumacher documentary?
I just finished it before this, man.
Oh, yeah? How is it?
Just finished it.
Yeah.
I liked it. It was good. I think it gives an insight that you maybe wouldn't get elsewhere. Which I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it's worth a watch. If you've been watching Formula One in like his era, and you've seen his races, like to get that perspective on it was pretty cool. Definitely.
That's very cool. Awesome.
Have you seen it yet, or use that on the slate for tonight or the weekend?
That's definitely tuned up for tonight. At least maybe 1 or 2 episodes.
It's a film. You gotta watch it at once.
Oh, is it? It's not like a series they did as a film.
No, it's just a one-shot film. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Definitely excited for it though. Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, man.
Thank you. It's been really cool. I didn't know how it would be. I've never done one of these before, so
yeah,
it's a new experience for me, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, great, man. And maybe we'll have you back again another time.
Anytime.
Awesome. Good luck to you guys this weekend and the rest of the season. And
thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
All right.
See you guys.